Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is FPC Radio Live. It is May the 1st, and yeah, I got nothing, John. Really, honestly, I was thinking of a way to positively start this. I've been trying to think of something positive, but if you're a Boston Bruins fan today, today sucks. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to sit there and say, you know what, it was a good. I mean, look, eventually, Bruins fans, myself included, are going to be able to sit back and truly appreciate how special certainly the regular season was and the awards that this team is going to win. But right now, John, it's hard to describe just the gut punch. Waking up this morning, remembering all that happened last night.
I don't ever or really ever use the word choke in sports. I don't like to because, I think it's a bit harsh, but I think last night kind of qualifies that it was a choke job by the Bruins, especially games 5, 6, and when you add in game 7. Look, 6 times now in the last 15 years, they've lost a game 7 at home to end their season, right? And 3 of those times it happened in overtime. Talk about just putting your fans through the ringer, traumatizing your fans. It's just incredible. Perfect, right? Because that's what it was, right?
It was.
I mean, just every year, it's the same thing. And we were talking before the show, and I tweeted this out after the game last night. That the Bruins are hockey's version of the Green Bay Packers the last 12 years, right? I mean, they literally won championships, their last championship 4 months apart. Packers won their Super Bowl in February of 2011. 4 months later, the Bruins won the Stanley Cup. From that point forward, right, we both thought that both of these teams were going to have, I wouldn't say dynasties, but win more championships. And the Bruins have been the best regular season team in hockey since. The Packers have been the second best regular season team in the NFL, only behind the Patriots over the last 12 years, and they have nothing to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Packers have gone 5-4 at home. Like, they never supposed to lose at Lambeau Field. The Bruins keep losing their season in Game 7 at home. 6 times in 15 years that's happened.
They were 1-3 again at home in this series, which, when you think about the start of the season, they set a record for most wins at home to start the season. And they were, I mean, again, look, you win 65 games, obviously you're good on the road and at home, but it was baffling to see this team just all of a sudden show things that they just hadn't all season. And that was timidness. That was just being out physical. I thought they started the series really strong. Like, they were hitting. They weren't really buying into the nonsense that the Panthers were putting out there. But then eventually it flipped, and I don't know what happened. I mean, their defensive structure was poor for much of the series. Goaltending was mediocre. I didn't think Jeremy Swayman was that good last night. He had a couple of really big saves in overtime, and I'll give him that. And I'll admit, I closed my eyes on that Matthew Tkachuk breakaway. I couldn't do it. I saw it happen, and I was sitting here. I was watching the game in my office. There was a TV. Literally, I'm sitting right where I was watching the game. TV right above my head, and I closed my eyes. I couldn't watch it. So I mean, I'm not taking credit away from those, but the reality of it was I thought he gave up 2 very soft goals and 1 borderline soft, which was the overtime killer. So it's disappointing. It's the only difference between this year and years past. The Bruins didn't have an ability to not score. They were able to score. That was so. I mean, I'm not taking credit away from those, but the reality of it was
I'm still with you. Yep.
No, sorry. I accidentally opened up Twitter and I was looping in our show. So it kind of confused me. I was like, John, you sound like me.
Outer border experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, look, the reality of it was they were just not good enough defensively. Hampus Lindholm didn't have a good series. Charlie McAvoy disappeared physically in the last 3 or 4 games. I don't know what happened. They committed way too many just defensive lapses. And as I was telling you before the show, I was before that tying goal. I was literally just screaming at the television because I knew that was coming, and it wasn't because the graphic flashed goal a few seconds before. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. People are getting a little conspiracy theory. Yeah, because the goal sign for Florida flashed a couple seconds before it actually happened, about 20 seconds before. But trust me, if you knew what you were watching, you didn't need that to tell you that a goal was coming, because it was there was no doubt in my mind that was happening. Just because they did what I refer to their version of the NFL prevent defense. And what do we know about the NFL prevent defense? About 95% of the time, it comes back to bite you in the ass, because, well, you get too soft, and you just rely on doing the minimum. And what the Bruins were trying to do was softly get it out of the zone to kill time. Well, guess what? Why? You've been aggressive the entire game. That's your game. You dictate pace, you do all that, but yet you revert to this just passive way of playing. And it undoubtedly came back to bite them in the ass, because, well, they couldn't get the puck out of the zone. And then Florida took advantage of the opportunity, and this was the other soft goal I was referring to. Jeremy Swayman was not tied up against the post like he should have been. So regardless of if it was tipped or deflected or whatever, he was out of position. And it was disappointing. And this was right after, John, a very poor decision on his behalf to continue to play the puck, and he didn't get it out of the zone when he should have just covered it up moments before that. So I think people have kind of forgotten about that play, because of obviously the game tying goal is gonna be the bigger factor here. But he wasn't good. The defense wasn't good. I don't really know what happened with Jake DeBrusk and Taylor Hall the last couple of games. They were on fire and then just disappeared. It was a total team failure. And look, and like I said at the start of the show, eventually we're going to get to where we can appreciate this season, because there is a lot to appreciate. And I think, much like, I hate bringing up the 07 Patriots, but much like the 07 Patriots, with time, there's a lot to look at and say, you know what, this wasn't a complete failure. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. But right now, John, it's tough to find any positives. The only thing, John, is I just, and this is just me trying to find anything. The last two teams that set NHL records for most wins in a regular season and lost went on to win back-to-back Stanley Cups. So at least we got that going for us.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Be positive about it, I guess. But, the interesting thing is that 2007 Patriots team at least had won 3 Super Bowls in the previous 6 seasons, and then won 3 more over the next decade. So, obviously that 2007 season, if it ended in victory over the Giants, would have been monumental. But at least they gave you an awful lot to chew on before and after, whereas with the Bruins, it's just been constant, right? So you look at this series, they scored 27 goals in 7 games. Their power play was at 40%, right? They were 11 for 27 on the power play, outstanding. So, if you went into the series saying, okay, we're going to score 27 goals, go 11 for 27 on the power play, you're going to win this series, right? You're just going to find a way to win. They scored at least 3 goals in every game. But then over the last 3, with a chance to win on 3 different occasions, they gave up 15 goals in game 5, 6, and 7. I get one of them was an empty netter, but you know what? The Bruins had an opportunity to get an empty netter last night, which would have sealed the deal. I mean, I know empty netters get poo-pooed, but you know what they usually mean? Like 99% of the time is a victory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just frustrating to try to figure out what the heck happened here, because this is a team that essentially gave up like 2 goals a game this year, right? And then you give up 15 in the final 3.
Linus Ullmark's going to be the by far the runaway Vezina winning trophy.
Yep.
The two of them combined, won the Jennings Trophy, which is, the award given to the team who allows the fewest goals. They were incredibly defensively. This is why it's so, like, going into the playoffs, I was looking at this team like there's no doubt in my what team is going to beat them 4 out of 7. Well, I didn't expect them to all of a sudden not be good defensively. I could see maybe the offense struggling because it's the playoffs and everyone tightens up. But deep down, I was like, you know what? Regardless of even if they can win games 2-1, and you know what I mean? And like, I'm okay with that. Like, because I believe in their defensive structure, in their ability to stop the puck, even if they don't do everything perfect. they were pretty good defensively, and then they weren't overnight. And that's the frustrating part is like, how can I explain that? Like, I think like sometimes I'm sitting here thinking like, not that I have any effect. My confidence level does not have any effect on how the Bruins play. This is clearly my delusional thoughts and my impact on the Bruins. But going into it, I was very confident. I was calling 16-5, John. Well, at least they've lost fewer than 5 games, I guess. I mean, that's a positive. But
that's right. That's
yeah,
true.
there you go.
There you go.
I guess it's good. Unfortunately, they ended with 68 total wins on the season. It would have been, I guess, at least better to
the Red Sox are going to end up winning more than the Bruins.
Yeah,
this year. The Bruins had a chance to
they had
the Red Sox and win.
They had a chance, but no. Look, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, it absolutely. I mean, my confidence level was high. I thought they were going to go 16-5, and there was no reason to believe that this was going to happen, John. This wasn't like this underlying like issue that they had was creeping up on them, and there was like, okay, no, these teams can beat. Like, no, this team lost because they completely abandoned who they were, and that was, above all else, an incredibly sound defensive team with great goaltending, and they were none of that this entire postseason or this entire series.
From the middle of March till last week, they won 18 of 20 games. They were on just such a heater. Then they followed it up with a 3-game losing streak. I mean, I know we bring up the 2007 Patriots as a comparison. It also feels like the 2016 Golden State Warriors, who went 73-9, and then got to a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals, and then gave you a 3-game losing streak to give Cleveland the championship in 2016. Thank you very much. But I think that it really is. And you see a lot of these teams that have set records and had great regular seasons, and they just can't quite finish it off, because I think the pressure is great. But you had a 3-1 lead right at that point, and we're laughing a week ago that Linus Ullmark fighting Matt Tkachuk. How tough is he?
Yeah.
Right? How tough is this team? Swagger and Ullmark scored a goal earlier in the season. They're just toying with people, and then it just flipped in the final 3 games. 2 of them at home, both of those losses at home in overtime. It is hockey, I get it, but it was really, really mind-boggling the way they played these final 3 games. And they weren't perfect the first 4 games of the series, but they looked to be in control, and then they weren't.
Yeah. And just think if only Brad Marchand was able to just score on that last second breakaway, we would not even be in this position. It would be.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of things. Look, that Pasta shot early in overtime, then went off the nub of Bobrovsky. And that's the other thing, John. This wasn't we talked about it before the playoffs. This wasn't a situation where the goalie stole a show. Like, at least you could almost stomach that a little bit better, because sometimes, yes, it just happens. A goalie is possessed, so to speak, and they just have this. They're just on such a roll that it just can't be stopped. But that wasn't the case. Bobrovsky was bad. And like, early on, and I'm glad they listened to me, because they did start to listen to me. Again, this is where I believe they actually do pay attention to me. I'm screaming. I try, but I'm screaming, shoot the puck, shoot the effing puck. Like, the guy. First of all, the guy gives up ungodly number of rebounds. Look at the go-ahead goal late in the third. And they were trying to get the perfect setup every time early on, and it was so frustrating. At one point, John, it was about 13 minutes to go in the second period. This was right around when they started to kind of really start to get their game going. They had 10 shots through nearly half the game. What are you doing? Get pucks on the net, because their goal... you could argue that Alex Lyon was better than Sergei Bobrovsky in this series, and Lyon got benched 4 games ago. So, you know what I mean? Goaltending was not the issue against Florida. It wasn't Florida's goaltending that was stealing the show. They weren't doing anything remarkably special, but they were just capitalizing on every opportunity the Bruins gave them, and the Bruins gave them plenty. And you know what? Now they're at home, and Florida's going to play Toronto. So
I mean, I'm ancient, right? So I remember 71 when Dryden stonewalled them. I remember 74 when Bernie Perron stonewalled them, two of the greatest goaltenders in the history of the sport.
Go to 2004 when Carey Price did it.
Exactly. Yeah, one of the greatest goaltenders ever, right? If you've ever lost a playoff series to Patrick Roy or Martin Brodeur, Dominic Hasek, I think in 1998 was it, or 99?
Yeah, 99.
Yeah, he just shut them down, right? So, fine. That's great. That's like if you lose a baseball series, Bob Gibson wins 3 games in the 67 World Series. Sorry for the old reference. You could get that, but like you strength for the Florida Panthers, you scored 27 goals.
Yeah.
You average 4 goals a game, and it's like that's enough. That this would be like, I mean, maybe this is being hyperbolic. This would be like if the Chicago Bears in '85 show up to the Super Bowl and give up 34 points to the Patriots.
Yeah.
And somehow lose the game. I mean, I'm not saying that Bruins defense is as good as Chicago, but you get my point, right?
No, I mean, I think it's a very great point. It's a great way to hammer home just how polar opposite this team became in just a overnight.
Right.
Ugh.
How about them Celtics?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, and that's the great thing about having teams that are pretty regularly competitive. Usually, there's at least some like I obviously I love the Celtics. I love watching basketball, but clearly hockey is my sport over basketball. So unfortunately, this isn't a situation where at least I can fall back on the Celtics. Like I'm happy for the Celtics, but I'm still absolutely miserable, and I'm gonna hate watch, not hate the Celtics watch, but just hate sports watch the Celtics, until at least, if they can get into, keep going, maybe I'll start to feel better. This healing process, it is a process. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of, you brought up the 2016 NBA Finals. Well, we're getting a little bit of a, not a Cavs Warriors rematch, but a LeBron Steph rematch in the second round. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually, I'm buying into the hype. I'm buying into the whole matchup. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Quite frankly, though, I don't know if Golden State really has a good matchup against them. Like, who's going to stop AD if he's healthy and at the top of his game?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday Golden State controlled the boards. I mean, Kevon Looney had 22 rebounds, 9 on the offensive end. He looked like Moses Malone out there, and that's not going to happen against Anthony Davis. And then you see what LeBron's able to do on the boards as well. He had a 20 rebound game back in Game 4 of the Memphis series. So yeah, they're not going to dominate the boards like they did in Game 7 against Sacramento. The Lakers are 3-0 or 3-1 against Golden State this year. They match up pretty well against them. They're a big team, the Lakers. Golden State isn't. You've got veteran teams here that are kind of on fumes at this point. They're winning with guile and determination and smarts and all of that stuff. But yeah, I like the Lakers' chances. Again, I think Anthony Davis is going to be an impossible matchup for Golden State. The key, obviously, is Steph Curry. When he plays like he did yesterday, good luck, because that's not normal what he did yesterday. In fact, he set a record for the most points in a Game 7 with 50 of them. It's just incredible. But, you could see the way some teams defend him or don't defend him. Like, you can't let him be free on the right side. Can't get his right hand free. And I sound like, like a hockey fan here, but you got to be somewhat physical with the guy. He's 6'2", 190 pounds. You can't just let him roam alone out there. And you got to make him pay. And you also got to make him play defense. So, maybe the Lakers will be able to do that with their sheer size. But it's going to be interesting. It's the marquee matchup of round 2 for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially when you consider Joel Embiid's out tonight and quite possibly might be out for longer in this series, which, I mean, look, it was going to be tough for the 76ers to beat the Celtics anyways. But, without Joel Embiid, I mean, it's I think the percentage chance is near zero. So that's really, it is what it is out there. Maybe there's intrigue with the Heat, which, again, South Florida is having a pretty good time knocking off number 1 seeds in their respective sport, apparently. So, and Miami picked up Game 1 win over New York Knicks. So it's like, yeah, there's intrigue there, the Jimmy Butler stuff, all that, that's fun. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's very clearly going to be a Warriors Lakers show in the second round because, well, there are a lot of juicy things to talk about. Obviously, the Steph and LeBron thing, but you quite possibly could be getting some really, really good basketball between those two specifically, and then the two teams combined.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contrast in style. Obviously, again, the Lakers are a big physical team. They control the boards. They play excellent defense. We see what Golden State does. I mean, their offense is exquisite. It's beautiful to watch. So, there's a clash in styles. You have the two biggest stars in the NBA without question. I don't even know who the third biggest star in the NBA is. It's Steph, LeBron. It's kind of a legacy matchup. They've met 4 times in the playoffs. Steph's won 3 of the times. For the most part, he's had better teams than LeBron. Certainly when he had Kevin Durant at his side, it felt like a stacked deck in favor of Golden State. That's not going to be the case now because I think the third best player in the series is going to be Anthony Davis. Take LeBron, Steph out of the equation, I would say that, Anthony Davis is the best of the rest. In fact, Anthony Davis at times looks like the best player in the league. When he's engaged, healthy, and, really focused, he's a 34, 17 rebound guy every night who plays great defense. I mean, he's as good as any player in the league when he, is motivated to be, and I would hope he's motivated to be in round 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, if that's what you're getting, if the Lakers get that, I just don't see Golden State, like, as great as obviously the Game 7 win was, like, Sacramento did a pretty darn good job of locking down everyone but Steph Curry. Now, that's the problem. That's obviously still not enough to win, especially when he goes off for 50. But I think the Lakers obviously can do a better job, and then obviously counter better, again, assuming Anthony Davis is healthy, and if he's, like you said, playing at his peak. I mean, it's hard to see a path for Golden State to counter that, at least enough to win 4 out of 7.
Yeah, and then whoever wins this series goes on and plays Denver and Phoenix. That's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, this thing is wide open. For the first time ever, each seed is represented in the second round of the playoffs, right? You've got Denver's a 1 seed, the Celtics is a 2 seed, Philly's a 3 seed, Phoenix is a 4 seed, and so on and so forth. The Knicks are at 5, Golden State 6, Lakers 7, and Miami 8. This feels like March Madness, right? of just a month and a half ago, where no one knew what the heck was going to go on, and 4-seeded Connecticut was by far the best team. But yeah, it's more wide open than it's been in many, many years. I still think the Celtics are the favorite because they have the best roster and they got to the finals last year. I still question the coach. I really do. I just, especially if they play Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, to me, that's a coaching mismatch, but you still have the better roster. You should be able to get through, even though Spoelstra is the best in the business, and we still don't know much about Joe Mazzulla other than he chews gum feverishly.
Yeah. Look, and sometimes we know, like in basketball, like, look, I mean, talent really runs the show there. Unfortunately for the Celtics, they have the best collection of talent left. So, and not a, they certainly don't have the best player in the league, but it's not too far. You know what I mean? They have players that are right, Jason Tatum's right there, and that's obviously an advantage. So it's not just a lot of really good players. It's some really marquee mega stars and then some other really good players to go along.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why the Celtics should be the favorites. Now, again, they tend to make things far more difficult on themselves. And we've already seen it this postseason. So I'm not going to sit there and pretend like it's not possibility that it's going to happen. Like, they should run through the 76ers. All things being equal. I mean, again, we already know Joel Embiid's going to be out tonight. All things being equal, if they play their game, they should run through the 76ers. 4-1.
Philly beat them once this year.
Yeah,
I would think so. 5-6 game series. They've owned Philadelphia recently in the regular season and the postseason. And you look at the one time Philadelphia beat the Celtics this year, and Embiid went off for 52 points. The Celtics didn't have Robert Williams III or Al Horford. They're too big, and it was still a tight game. So just think of Horford and Williams being available every game. You got to get Grant Williams integrated back into the lineup, give him 20, 22 minutes a night to battle Embiid, because Embiid's unstoppable. And the thing about Embiid is it's not like when Shaq was dominant, and look, Shaq's one of the all-time greats. You could hack a Shaq and he'd go and miss half his free throws. This guy hits 85 to 88% of his free throws. That's what makes him such a unique big man. But yeah, I think the Celtics should be in good shape against Philadelphia.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of start they get off to today and tonight. And for kind of bring it full circle for all us Bruins fans out there, the transition to basketball full time is it's painful. It's painful. I love the Celtics, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but that's why we're here, John, for these therapy sessions.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I could have handled it.
Therapy sessions.
I don't know if I could have handled it after 2007, but I've grown, I've matured. Yeah, I cry off the air, so that's how I deal with it. So, all right, that's going to do it for us here today. We will be back tomorrow. Obviously, we'll kind of talk more about the Celtics and 76ers tonight. We'll see what happens in Game 1, and we'll go from there. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and realize, well, it was just all a bad dream, and the Bruins actually won Game 7. But I think I'm going to have to take a whole lot of hallucinogens to have that actually become a reality. So until then, though, we will talk to you all tomorrow. So thank you very much, and see you then.